Today on Exclusive, we dive deep into the human psyche, technology's double-edged sword, and the rising challenges of cybersecurity with none other than Christopher Hadnagy, a globally acclaimed expert in social engineering and founder of Social Engineer LLC. Known for pioneering ethical approaches to understanding and countering human vulnerabilities, Christopher has reshaped how industries and governments tackle manipulation in the digital age. Tune in for a conversation that will redefine how you view trust, security, and the future of human behavior in a connected world. Chris, hi, and welcome to Kazakhstan.
Thank you.
What keeps you up at night when you think about the evolution of social engineering and its global implications?
Well, first, I think it's on everyone's mind, AI, deepfakes. That keeps me awake because we saw it go from literally nothing to like 100 miles an hour within a second.
Yeah.
And that worries me because we're seeing it being used now against young people and against older folks, and it's a pandemic globally, really.
Could perhaps social engineering techniques be weaponized to manipulate the financial markets, such as spreading false information to influence stock prices?
Yeah, you know, in 2013, and this is a while ago, but let's apply that. 2013, someone hacked the Associated Press's Twitter account. And they tweeted from that account that the White House had a bomb in it and that it exploded. Even though moments later, I mean, it's just literally moments later, they got the Twitter account back, the White House went public, said everything's fine, the president's fine. The stock market dropped 140 points in one day. That was a $138 million loss in one day from one tweet. That was fake and was quickly said it was fake. Now, that was 2013. Let's jump forward 12 years. Now we have AI, we have the ability to actually clone someone's voice. We just had an attack in the US where someone cloned President Biden's voice. Then they made a couple thousand calls in Rhode Island asking for donations for his campaign. They made tens of thousands of dollars in a few hours. So with AI now, we can clone things so quickly and easily and so realistically that I do fear that we can affect, financial markets can be affected, whole lives can be affected if you think about what can be done with deepfakes and things like that.
There were some deepfakes circulating around in Kazakhstan with the president and the heads of other various key companies, national companies, advertising phishing scams like if you invest this much, you will get a tenfold return. And how do we fight this?
That's a really good question because we had the same thing happen in America where Elon Musk was saying, if you donate to this charity, I'll give you a Bitcoin. And the person who did that made $300,000 in a few hours. Right?
Do they ever get caught?
This guy did get caught, believe it or not, but it took them months and months and months. He made some OPSEC errors and he ended up getting arrested. But a lot of times they don't because everything's done through the internet, through the dark web, through manipulation. The question of how do we protect, that's a hard one because right now we don't have technology that you can say, oh, that's a deep fake. Oh, that's real. Yeah. We don't have that. So what I've been telling people is we need some form of verification. Like I tell my family, my friends, my clients, just because you see something on the internet, it doesn't make it real. You have to be able to verify that it's from a real source.
But it's so hard to verify.
Oh, and almost impossible for a lot of things. How would I verify that something from your president is real or not? I can't walk up to him and say, excuse me, sir, is this real? So how do you do that? I think it's up to media, governments to start creating a verification process, especially for government-related videos.
But which industries are most susceptible to social engineering attacks, and what factors make them vulnerable?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So medical, big time, because if we think about it, your medical record contains everything. Everything about you, your full name, your government ID, every medical history, every procedure you ever had, anything about you, that information can make you very vulnerable. So threat actors want that. Second is banking, and that's an obvious one. They hold all of our money. So if they can gain access to banking or your bank records, they can easily manipulate you. So I would say medical and financial are the two biggest ones, but we're seeing it across all sectors. Government agencies are big threat actors are going after them. We're seeing it even in retail. In America and across the globe, retail agencies are getting hacked because they hold our credit card data. They hold our financial data, what records we have. Sometimes our email, phone number, full name, address. So they have all of that information, so threat actors are going after them too.
So medical, that's the only industry.
Medical is the one that I would say is the biggest, and then banking and financial is a second.
Does economic inequality make certain populations more susceptible to social engineering? And if so, how can governments and organizations address the vulnerability?
Yeah, sadly it does. So if we think about this, if you're poor and you are desperate to want more, and then someone sends you a phishing email that promises, like you said, this tenfold return if you just do these things. Someone who's poor,
too good to be
yes,
true.
too good, right? And you might be like, this can change my life.
Yeah.
What if it's true? And they only want a little bit of money up front, so people do that. And then we fall for this commitment and consistency principle where once we did a little, and a lot of these crypto scams we're seeing, they'll actually give you money back. So you give them, let's say, $1,000. They'll come back and say, wow, you did really good. Here's $3,000. Your mind goes, oh my gosh, I just made $3,000, $2,000 in one day. So then you give him all of it back plus more. And now, of course, they disappear. So this is happening across the globe in America. I know someone that just lost $250,000 to that very scam. When you have even a little money and they tell you you can now be rich, people sometimes give it over. So yeah, I think economic equality makes people more susceptible. And what can be done about it? I think better education to the public.
Education.
Yeah, national education to the public.
You can't
what
get
does this mean?
return from the
No, yeah, it's hard to do it, but we have to teach our older people, our younger people, and everybody really, like what are these scams and how to avoid them.
Right. What are some of the most dangerous phishing or social engineering scams currently spreading around the world and Central Asia, perhaps, that our audience should be vigilant about?
Here's the biggest one. We actually talked about this Nobel Fest. Our young people are being exploited. So because of social media, they're on it all the time. They have these get-rich-quick schemes.
Yeah.
Threat actors are getting our young people to send naked pictures of themselves, and then they're using that to manipulate them, to get them to steal money from their parents or give money from their bank accounts. And here in Kazakhstan, it has caused a large amount of suicides of our teenagers because of that. And also in America, we're seeing that. And across the globe, we're seeing this. The young people have nowhere to go. They're afraid to tell their parents that they did this. They're afraid to tell their teacher. Nobody is offering them that help. So the only way out, and the threat actors are actually telling them, the only way out is to kill yourself. They're actually encouraging them to commit suicide, which is awful. So when you ask, like, what's the biggest? To me, that's the largest thing that we should talk about because our young people are being affected globally by this. Secondly, it's our older folks. They're doing what they call the grandparent scam, calling your mom and dad and saying, hey, I'm in jail, can you help me out? Or I got arrested, or I'm in debt, can you give me some money? And they're spoofing phone numbers. Grandma says, I want to help. So she wires some money, and now she lost her life savings. These two scams I see are just they're so sadistic because of how they're targeting people who are vulnerable, and they have no recourse if they get caught into it.
But some of the scams that we hear about in Kazakhstan quite a lot is to do with kids, but the end goal is not to extort any money, actually. The end goal is for them to commit suicide.
Yeah.
And I don't understand who's behind this and what their ideology is and why would they do that.
Yeah.
The way it's done is usually it's constructed in the form of a game. So you have to complete certain exercise and certain tasks, like cross the street on a red light and see if you get caught. There have been several cases where 9-year-olds have jumped off of 9-story buildings.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't understand what the purpose of this particular scam is.
So one of the other things I do is I run a nonprofit. It's called the Innocent Lives Foundation. It's a global organization where we help law enforcement catch people who traffic children and hurt children. And one of the things we have access to, we found, was a guide that lives on the dark web called the Sextortion Guide. And it's literally a document that someone wrote on how to get kids to do these things. And inside it talks about the motivation, and it's just if you like to hurt people. Think about it. What is a terrorist motivation? And what is their they're going to go and blow up a whole bunch of people for what? And they're going to die themselves, right? It doesn't make sense to any normal person. Why would someone over the internet encourage?
Yeah.
And a lot of times what they do is when they get them to that point, they actually want them to stream it or take a picture of them dying. So that way they have this volume of disgusting pictures and videos that they trade.
They just enjoy that.
They enjoy it. It's sadistic people who have nothing but pleasure in their life to hurt other people. And there's no other explanation for it. How we got to this point in society where there's that many, it's astonishing to me because there's groups of them in different parts of the world, in different countries. There actually has been some evidence that, like, even in Russia, that there are prisoners in jail who are being commanded to do this. Like, they're being told you do this as part of your prison sentence. So there's a lot of groups in Georgia and Russia, across Iran, across.
This is how they operate.
Yes.
Well, during your time in Kazakhstan, perhaps you've gotten to talk to a few people. Have you observed any unique cultural or behavioral traits that could influence how social engineering tactics are designed and deployed here?
Yeah. So I'm going to say this one, but I'm going to caveat it. So as soon as people find out you're a foreigner, they're friendly. They're so friendly. big smiles. They want to take pictures
They're
with
much
you.
nicer than to locals.
Yes, yeah. So maybe that's nice. But it makes me feel like, ooh, that's a vulnerability. But I'm going to caveat that because the last thing I want to say to people is don't be friendly. That's part of being human. And it's one of the things that makes coming to Kazakhstan so pleasurable is when you come here, you know you're welcome. Everyone's friendly. But one of the things that I do worry about is I had a chance to have conversations with a few locals here. It seems like a lot of people that are in the lower income brackets live in debt.
Yeah.
They live on borrowed money. So even something as simple as getting a coffee, when your app comes up to pay, it says, do you want to break this up over 3 months? And you do that daily for something $2, $4, $5, $6, but it adds up over a month. And when you're in debt and you're looking at your bank account and you have this little in it, but your debt is this much, and now someone sends you a phishing email or an SMS that promises wealth, that is the kind of thing that can really get someone in trouble. Because you're looking at debt, you're looking at your paycheck, and you're like, they don't match. And that can really make a big vulnerability here in Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan is also facing challenges fighting cyber criminals who use SIM-box equipment to anonymously carry out phishing scams from outside the country, which is the most ridiculous part. How can governments and international organizations mitigate the economic effects of these targeted social engineering tactics?
Yeah, so this is a hard one, right? Because I'll tell you what's happening in America, the same thing, but America's passed a law that to send SMSs through SIM boxes and things like that, you have to have a registered number. Now, there's always ways past that, right? But I think governments, by making stricter laws on who's allowed to use the phone networks, who's allowed to have registered numbers, that can reduce it. Will it stop it? No, but it can reduce it. Also, giving companies and people education on technology that can work, like certain firewalls that can help stop that. Education on what these scams are. Like, as soon as something happens, news stories like this can be so helpful. Think about how many people will watch this and go, I didn't know about that extortion. I wonder if my child's dealing with that. I wonder if my grandma's dealing with that. Now they might go talk to them. And that education alone can be, the awareness can really help stop it or mitigate it at least a little.
Well, let me tell you, I've gotten really wary of these calls with the robotized voices. Yeah. They've now started cloning local people's voices. And as soon as you hear this pause, they say, hello. And it's this artificial pause. Yeah. I put down the phone. Yeah. I'm so tired. I guess like all of these attempts have trained me well, but there are some people who still buy this.
Yes. So that's actually a really good point. So first of all, we found a group of a phishing group, voice phishing, that is using AI-based software to change their accents. So when they're calling America, they sound American. When they're calling Kazakhstan, they're sounding Kaz, right? So so they're able to do this now with this AI software. But second, I think what you do is really the answer. A lot of people say, like, hello, hello, and then they'll be like, oh, I know you're a scammer. Don't do that. Don't answer them, because if they're copying your voice, oh, no. And this is what, I don't know if it's happening here, you can tell me, but in America, a lot of companies are trying to allow you to use your voice as your password. Now, I won't do that ever, because I have podcasts, news stories like this. You can clone my voice easily. So if my bank allows me to use my voice as a password, anyone can get into my bank account. So when you answer those scam calls, you're like, hello, hello, sometimes they're recording that just to get your voice. So I think when you do that, you hear that artificial pause. You know, sometimes for me now, I don't even answer my phone unless I know your number. If it's important, you'll leave me a message and I'll call you right back, right? But a lot of times if it's a scammer, they don't leave a message. Yeah. It's terrible.
Fraud and identity theft, including personal loan scams, which are quite common here, are on the rise globally. You know, are we witnessing a global epidemic with such scams, and what measures can countries like Kazakhstan implement to protect vulnerable citizens?
We are. I think economically, the world is hurting. Right? There's a lot of people, a lot more people that are in poverty level than they are in rich level. If you look at the amount of people who have more wealth in some countries, it's a very small amount. But most normal people live paycheck to paycheck. So because of that, scammers know this. They're going to use these type of hooks to try to get people to fall for them. Now, what can governments do? Again, it comes back to, and I hate to sound like a parrot, like I'm just repeating, but it comes back to better awareness for citizens and better controls over who is allowed to use certain networks. Yeah. Like, who can get on your phone network and send SMSs for this country? Are there better regulations for that? Is there a way to regulate that? That can help stop a lot of those attacks. Also, and I know a lot of big networks like phone networks and email servers, they have firewalls that can easily look at where this traffic is coming from. So if you know that most of your attacks are coming from X country, in this country, start analyzing that traffic a lot more. Like if let's say it's the Philippines, and I don't know if that's the case, let's analyze every ounce of traffic that comes from the Philippines and the Kazakhstan. See if, let's be a little more strict about that. That sounds like a horrible thing to say out loud, but sometimes we have to fight that way when we're dealing with a global pandemic like this. Yeah.
This brings me to my next question. What would be your top advice for countries like Kazakhstan in building human-centered cybersecurity culture, that effectively counters social engineering tactics?
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to education first. Awareness is the biggest thing. If people don't know these things exist, they can't fight against it. Yeah. So that's the first thing. Second is giving some kind of outlet for people to report things. Right, so maybe, like we talked about teenagers, maybe they're embarrassed to go to their parents. Is there an agency that they can go to without feeling humiliation and shame? Is there a way they can get help here easily, so that way if they have fallen for this, they're in the middle of one of these games where they're hurting themselves and they're starting to feel that pressure, they've given nude pictures to someone and they don't know what to do, make a place where they can go safely and get help.
Very good point.
Right? Because if they have nowhere to go, this is why they end their life. They feel lost. They feel like if I go to my mom and dad, they're gonna hate me, they're gonna kick me out, whatever. They need a safe place to go. Same for older people. They might feel humiliated to go tell their son or their daughter that they fell for a scam and gave money.
Yeah.
Their kids might be like, why, how can you be so stupid? They need a place to go to get help. I find that the more times people have a safe place to go, the easier it is for them to recognize, oh, I might have done something wrong, and then go get help before they do more.
My mom actually last Christmas tried purchasing a Christmas tree. An ad popped up on her Instagram account on her feed, and she followed it, and it all seemed very legit. And then she ended up basically transferring like over $100 for a tree, but it was such a beautiful tree, and like her whole day was ruined because she felt like a failure. And we kept telling her, you know what, you're all right, you're safe. That's money, we can earn it again. But they do, you're right, they feel very upset, especially.
The way you handle that is perfect. So too many people will be like, how can you be so dumb? If you say that to any of your family, they're never going to come to you again, right? So the way you handle that was actually perfect, and it's nice that your mom felt comfortable. But that brings up a really valuable point. Social media. You asked, what else can governments do? Well, maybe not governments, but I always ask the question, why are social media companies so easy to get these fake ads on?
I know,
right? Like, what is Instagram doing that they can't stop? I mean, Facebook, Meta, is one of the largest companies on the planet Earth. They make billions of dollars, and you're telling me that they don't have the money to control a fake ad on their network so that way your mom doesn't fall for it? That just blows my mind, and I think we need to hold, governments should hold social media companies more accountable for what's happening to our youth and our older folks on their platforms.
That's a very valid point, actually. Speaking of these big behemoths, with advancements in AI, how do we see social engineering tactics evolve over the next decade?
Well, we touched on some of it. So the cloning of people's voices and faces. There was a massive attack in Hong Kong I think it was a few months ago. They made something called a digital skin. So it's literally a AI-based program where I can look like you. And then I can clone your voice, and I can get on a Zoom call with somebody, and I'm you, I'm not me. And I can talk like you, sound like you, and look like you. With this Hong Kong, they did a digital skin of the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer. And he got on a Zoom call with one of the underlings, and they did a $25 million wire transfer in 10 minutes. Because he told them, we have a new investment, I need you to go do this. And the person's like, well, that's the CFO. He's my boss, he told me what to do. $25 million in 10 minutes.
So dangerous.
So when you look at that, and that's now, what's going to happen over the next 2 years, 3 years? I can only imagine this technology is going to get so much better and easier. I made a deep fake. It took me 7 minutes of Elon Musk saying we're best friends. Right? I didn't do anything with it. It was just a show on a news program. But just to say, like, we're best friends. And it looks like he's saying we're best friends. It's his voice, it's his face. When that technology gets so easy that even lay people can just go and use it, what else is, I fear for what the future holds for that.
Yeah. How might AI be maybe leveraged both to scale social engineering attacks and to detect and prevent them?
Yes, I love this because right now, like my company, we're working on creating a version of AI that can help detect deception on phone calls. So imagine if we can actually accomplish that. If we can find the funding and get that and make that happen, to have a program that a company or a phone network or a government can have that will be able to quickly detect if that person on the phone is using deceptive practices and then warn the user. Say, hey, this person may not be telling the truth. That would just be such a beautiful thing to have. Because I find that when you're on a phone call, if you're emotionally hijacked, you're not thinking. But if something breaks that hijack, even for a second where you can have critical thought, it enables you to go, hey, is this real? Like, you know, like if something popped up on your mom's Instagram page or on her phone to say, are you sure you want to spend this $100 on this tree? She might have went, oh, no, I don't. I don't want to do that. And that might have stopped her from doing it. But if there's no warning there, people just go through with the motion. So I think using AI to help detect when someone's being fraudulent and then warning the user is a great way that we can start utilizing it to protect people.
You're right. It is surprising that, you know, hyperscalers that you mentioned are not developing these, or are they developing such technologies? You're not the only one. Right?
I don't see them. I mean, I don't see social media companies doing this because think about how much money is in it for them.
Is there that much money in it for them, though?
Well, so I'm sure that person who put the scam ad up paid. They didn't do it for free. They paid Meta.
Right.
So whatever their fee is to advertise,
ads.
they paid for the ads. But they knew that they were going to make a lot more than they were paying Meta for that. And then let's say someone reports it. That ad will get shut down. Tomorrow they'll have a new one.
But you get to keep the money.
That's it. You get to keep the money. They're not taking the money back. As soon as that money comes to their account, they're moving it to somewhere else. So Facebook or Meta can't take it back. And then they'll put another ad up. They probably have dozens of them out there. So if one gets shut down, who cares? There was an issue with Facebook where, and this is terrible to even mention, but there was a sexual assault of a 12-year-old girl that was live streamed on Facebook, and they didn't shut it off.
Nobody blocked it?
Nobody shut it off. Like, and Facebook's thing was like, well, we didn't know what to do. Like, you didn't know what to do. This is an assault of a 12-year-old girl. Like, what do you mean you didn't know what to do? Like, so social media companies, and I hate to be so hard on them because there is some good with it. I mean, we could stay friends from across the globe because of social media, but there's so much danger in the way that it makes young people think, anyone think, and some of the things that happen on it. Those companies, honestly, the question about what governments can do, governments need to hold those companies more accountable for their citizens. What
emerging trends in social engineering do you believe will have the most significant impact in the next 5 to 10 years?
So we're all on our cell phones. We live on it, right? I don't know about you, but everything's on our banking's on our cell phone, our friends, our family, right? We do, we live on it. It's not a phone anymore. It's more of like our personal assistant. So I see the emerging trend being that threat actors are going to start going after our cell phone technology, looking to get access, because right now there's exploits out there for Android that if you were to install something, they can turn on your camera. They can have access to all your apps. So these things exist now.
They can tap.
Yeah, they can tap, they can listen, they can watch, right? So they can gain access to all your photos in there and things like that. So I look at this as saying, I think our cell phone technology is going to be what threat actors are going to go after, knowing that we do everything. Yeah.
Can social engineering perhaps be programmed to serve positive purposes?
Yes.
So then how?
I love this question. So we look at I define social engineering as any act that influences a person to take an action that may or may not be in their interest. So we talked about all the may not be in their interest. But let's think about, let's say you had a really good friend who's severely unhealthy, overweight, you want them to get healthy. If you walked up and said, man, you're fat, you need to lose weight, that's not great. That's rude, it's not nice, no one's going to listen to you.
Yeah.
But imagine if you were to use some social engineering tactics, some influence. You were to say, hey, I'm going to start going to the gym. I would love to have a partner. Do you want to go with me? And now you're influencing that person to maybe join you in a health program. You're getting them to do what you wanted them to do, to be healthy, but you're doing it without calling them a name or making them feel bad. That's a positive use of social engineering, of influence, how to influence people. But I also think we can use the same tactics in influencing this education I've been talking about, where we educate the public on what these attacks are by gamifying it, making it fun, not making it so filled with fear. You know, we don't want everyone being so afraid all the time. Yeah, training people using these skills and influence skills and make it enjoyable.
Well, some critics of your book, The Art of Human Hacking, argue that it could inadvertently act as a guide for malicious intent, which is what we were just talking about. How do you respond to this perspective?
Yeah, so it's true that it can be, right? And it's just the analogy I give is I used to be a chef, and I have a bunch of really great knives. Now, when that company created that knife, they made it so I can cook and cut food better. But that knife could be used to murder someone.
As a weapon.
Yeah, they didn't intend it for that. So I built my book and my framework to help educate people on what these attacks are so they can defend against it. I didn't create it for the use of hurting other people. Now, can it be used that way? Yes, that's sad. But the problem is if someone like me or other people don't talk about this, then everyone else doesn't know it exists. Grandma and grandpa don't know these attacks are out there. So we have to start educating the good guys on how to defend the people who are vulnerable. And the only way to do that is to write books and talk about it like this.
At Nobel Fest, many young minds are eager to explore the intersection of technology and human psychology. What advice would you offer them as they prepare for a future where these fields continue to converge?
I got to tell you that one of the things that impressed me the most is the young people at Nobel Fest, their desire to learn. I was surrounded by people asking questions about the future, their careers, these 20, 21, 22-year-old people looking forward to the future. It was really impressive to see that thirst for knowledge. I really, really enjoyed that about your country. But what can they do? Well, I think I had some really good questions yesterday from some young folks that were like, should I stay in university and pursue this? And I'm like, well, in my day and age, you didn't need a degree to do it. But I think today you do. I think today you have to. If companies aren't looking at someone with just experience and a degree really work well together. Now, what degree? I'm saying, you said it perfect. There's an intersection of psychology, so understanding how humans make decisions and how the technology works with or against that. So if people are looking to get into this field, understanding those two things, you don't need to be a psychologist, but understanding it to a degree, and then understanding technology is a great path to go forward to do this for a living.
Where do you see the interplay between human psychology and technological advancements heading?
So I've seen a global move to actually hire psychologists in major companies to help develop like phishing simulations and vishing simulations to make sure that we're not harming people that are getting those attacks. I think by using psychology, we can help educate people without using fear, without using all the negative emotions like anger and things like that. So I think having psychologists involved in cybersecurity and InfoSec is a great way to move forward with this industry.
Well, Chris, it was a pleasure talking to you today.
You too. Thank you
for being with us.
Thank you.